This is Osher Gray Davidson, producer and host of The American Project. Earlier in episode 4, we looked at why Black Americans are more at risk of contracting COVID-19 and, more frequently, with lethal results. In our next episode, we take a deeper look at the disturbing history of racism in America's medical establishment.
Science was necessary for enslavement, but doctors were also dependent on the slave system.
That's Harvard-trained medical ethicist Harriet Washington. She's the author of the National Book Critics Circle Award-winning book, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. Washington tells the largely unknown story of how the rise of medicine and slavery were inseparable in America. Painstakingly researched, Medical Apartheid is one of the most viscerally challenging books I've ever read. When I was reading your book, what came to my mind was the comparison to the infamous Nazi doctors. Is that an unfair comparison to make?
Perhaps unfair to the Nazis. The thing is that the comparison to the National Socialist doctors is one that can be made pretty consistently throughout American history because the motivations were very similar. They had the same idea that Jewish people and African Americans were essentially not only inferior, but that they would pollute the quote-unquote white gene pool if they were allowed to proliferate.
Washington documents how the legacy of slavery still infuses much of modern medicine, leading to higher infant mortality rates for Black babies, higher maternal death rates among Black mothers, and a host of other maladies, resulting in shorter lifespans. I asked her if, given this history, Black people are less likely to seek medical treatment, and if so, how that affects their health. Washington didn't pull any punches.
Actually, that's a wrong question, because we're not just talking about African American wariness or mistrust. We're talking about an untrustworthy healthcare system. You can't talk about African American wariness without talking about the nature of the system. If you do, the implication is that there's some pathology among African Americans. That's not the case. African Americans who shun medical research and medical treatment, I feel it's tragic that they're shunning it. It's a group that needs access to medical research and treatment more than other groups, but it's a perfectly logical response. And the cure is not to change African American mentality and behavior. The cure is to create a healthcare system that is trustworthy. If it's trustworthy, people will trust it.
That's coming up next on The American Project.